What's up, party people? Morning, family. Yeah. Morning, family. How y'all doing today? It's been a day. It's been a day. It's been a day. Wonderful. Glad everybody could make it. Glad everybody could stop by. We're going to get into this thing. Deeper and deeper. Sunday session. Is God real? Is God real? Is God real? That is a very interesting question for a lot of us. And the reason that it is an interesting question is because so many of us have been dealing with different issues in our lives. And because we deal with those different issues, we find ourselves trying to control where we are. So welcome to everybody that is here. I appreciate all of your time. I appreciate all of you for spending time with us. And I pray that this blesses you as much as it blesses me to do it. So welcome to the party. Welcome to the party. So today I want to go into an Old Testament passage, a passage that some of us may know and some of us may not know, but it is an Old Testament passage. And I want to talk about this passage in comparison to where we're going right now. And a lot of us need this because we're actually dealing with where we are in our lives and how those things that we deal with are actually taking place. I was in most of you don't know that I was on a vacation for a little bit of time. And during that vacation, I learned a lot of things. And some of those things I'm going to share with you guys today. So stick with me, hang out with me. Terrific. So I need to be in front of the king. Yeah. So turn your Bibles to 1 Kings. All right. 1 Kings. All right. Okay, so we have a couple of challenges here. The first challenge we have is people on Instagram won't be able to see me, and I apologize, guys, for that. Anyway, turn your Bibles to 1 King. Now, those of you that know how I study are going to kind of understand this. I don't believe in studying according to passages related to the person that's dealing with it. And a lot of us have found that we will go to churches all over the world looking for these different things. Today I'm going to talk about, is God real? Now, we all say that he's real, and if someone says, is there a God? There's some people that say there is no such thing as God, and other people that say there is a God. And what we're going to talk about today is God real to you? So, in 1 Kings, let's see if we can get this over here. Yeah, in 1 Kings, see if that changes up there. Yeah, in 1 Kings, in the 18th chapter. For those of you that have read this passage and have actually gone through this passage, this is the competition or the place where this particular prophet is saying, if God is real, then show us he's real. So the king comes and says, go to the audience, prove to them that God is real. Now, couple things I want you to ask yourself. Number one, how real do you guys think God is in your life? And to be honest with you, don't. How real is He in your life? You have to ask yourself these questions. So first thing you have to ask yourself, how real is He in your everyday life? Do you deal with Him every day? Do you talk to Him every day? Is He a far off entity? And for some of you, that's how He was taught. He was taught to you as this far off entity. He's the God of heaven. He's the God of everything else. But you got to do your stuff yourself. He's not the God of you right now, this present moment, this present time. He's the God of every place else. So while He's being a God of everything else, it becomes lonely spiritually in your life because you really don't know that God is actually plugging into you, or He's really connecting to you. So it becomes a everyday process. And the key to that everyday process is, how do I maintain? How do I survive? How do I live this life of every day? How do I live this everyday movement and this process of it? Some of us are having challenges with our husbands. Some of us are having challenges with our wives, with our finances, with all these types of things. And the question becomes, is God real? And if He is real, how real is He to us? How real has God become to your everyday life? How real has God become to your everyday situation? How real is God? So we're going to go to this story, and I'm going to tell you this story just the way I tell it. Now, in this story, there's a battle at Mount Carmel. This prophet, his name is Elijah. He comes to this thing and he gives these words and all this types of stuff and talks about how great this wonderful God is. And so as he decides to do that, they place him in competition with the prophets of today. Now, let me make that real today. A prophet is one that speaks the season and the direction of God. Write that down. A prophet is one that speaks the season and the direction for God. So your today prophets would be your news. It would be your government. It would be social media. Places that you get information from that allow you to know the season and the movement of where you are, the atmosphere. So they have now 450 of newscasters, 450 scientists that say, and 450 of all these different people, experts in this area, psychology, doctors, 450 of these people that have the 450 people weight behind them. They got news behind them. They got research behind them. They have all these things behind them, and they saying, listen, all of that stuff is interesting and it's nice to learn, but it is not the power of God. So he says, well, show us your power of God. He said, okay, you all bring me everything that you have, your information, your news, your situations and circumstances, and I'm going to show you God in this situation. How many of you are standing in the midst of that right now? They say you can't have a house because you don't have good credit. You can't have a car because you don't have a down payment. You can't have children because something is wrong with your physical body. You're going through what everybody has explained to you is the God of your life. It is everything that you believe because you've been conditioned to believe that. I heard a statement once, and the man said, well, people just do what they want to do. Well, people don't do what they want to do. Write this down. People do what they're conditioned to do. People do what they're allowed to do. And people do what they're afraid not to do. They do what they're conditioned to do, what they're allowed to do, and what they're afraid not to do. And the key to that becomes, how do we break out of that situation? How do we break free from it? How do we move to the next level? Because the thing that we have to understand is the kingdom of heaven suffers violence, and the violent take it by force. The violent take it by force. I need you to understand something. I need you to understand you have been convinced that you're weak. You have been convinced that you're insignificant. You've been convinced that there is nothing greater than you. You've been convinced that everything is better than you. You've been convinced that sickness can take control of you. You've been convinced that a demon can come in and take over your house. that drugs can get you, that the police can get you. You've been convinced that the prophets of this season and this era are greater and stronger than you. To the point that you try not to hurt people's feelings and try not to say things that people don't like, or try not to say things that people feel uncomfortable with, because you are busy trying to make sure the things that happen to you don't happen to someone else. So what you have here is a situation where your God has not become the Jehovah Jireh or the Jehovah Kish. He's become the God of situations that make you comfortable. He's become the God of just stay under the radar. He's become the God of make sure you live a certain life, and not the God of changing everything about you. So if we look at this passage, this particular passage, and in the 2 Kings, it says this in the 21st verse. And Elijah came unto all the people and said, how long halt ye between two opinions? It's very interesting that he said opinions. How long halt ye between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal, meaning the god of flies, the god of irritation, if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word. Now, I want you to see something here. In this principle, he's saying choose a side, be hot or cold. I want to know in your life, are you pushing the level of God that makes him real to you? Are you maintaining the level of God that keeps you safe? Are you operating in the level of God that makes him real? Are you operating in the level of God that makes him safe to you? He's safe. It's easy. It's okay. I feel like I can do this. Are you staying within the borders of safety? Or are you pushing the envelope? I need you to understand that, because in the last couple of days, in the last 7 days, I have had to push the envelope contrary to the desires for me to push the envelope. I've had to push against things that said that I cannot have them. Listen, guys, there's a word called integrity. And integrity is not just what you do when nobody's around. Integrity is the strength to maintain support when there seems to be no strength. The integrity of the bridge means how strong can the bridge handle the weight. The integrity of your back is how straight and how strong can your back handle it. How much integrity does your belief system have? Does it have enough integrity that you will push into areas where people say you can't make it? Will it push into areas where people say, don't say that, don't do that, and they don't have a reason why, they simply say it? This principle is said, how long halt you between two opinions? See, we have to go from opinion to belief. Most of us live in opinion, but we have to go from opinion to belief. And when we get to belief, we begin to see that God's power supports belief. It leaves option to opinions. Romans the 12th chapter, the good, the acceptable, the perfect will of God. God accepts belief. He maintains belief. He protects belief. But you've got to get so into the next level of your life that you do not look back. There is no going back. There is no retreat. There is no surrender. You go all the way. Go hard or go home. Verse 22, it said, then said Elijah to the people, I remain only, remain the prophet of the Lord. Baal has 450 voices. You know, it seems like it's just all the voices that are saying, it seems like every voice speaks against the power that's inside of you. Every voice tells you that you're weak. Religious voices tell you that you're weak. Well, if you don't submit to leadership, no, that's not the key. Leadership is God. If you don't do this, every voice seems to tell you, number one, that you're wrong. There's something wrong with you. And number two, you're insignificant. This principle says, how long do you follow the opinions of those things that make you feel insignificant? You go to your job and you got to make just enough. You got to do just enough work to give them the capabilities of taking you to the next level. You got to love your husband at a certain level to do everything. Seems like it's something you got to fulfill a certain criteria. If you don't go to Bible college, you don't get a certain title in the church. If you don't follow what the pastor says, then God won't bless you. If you don't tithe, he won't rebuke the devourer for your name's sake. Ladies and gentlemen, how long halt you between these opinions? It goes on down and he begins to tell the story. And as the story goes, he lets the voices speak. And when he lets the voices speak, if you read down, he taunts them. He teases them. He says things. He said, maybe your God is sleeping. Maybe he's in the bathroom. Maybe he's asleep somewhere. Maybe something is going wrong. Maybe you call him louder. Maybe he's in the back of the house. Your God cannot speak loud. There has to be something going on. See, when you begin to really get into the things of God, you begin to understand that the stance that you've taken, the position that you've taken, is a position of fear. It's a position of fear. It's a position that says, I'm afraid that God may not do what he said he was going to do. It's a position that says he may not be where he said he can be. I made a comment one time to one of my core classes, and I said, when can you go into a situation and be silent and let God do his work? Be silent. Simply quiet. Don't say a word. Allow the anointing and the presence of God to fill that room. Quietly begin to worship God. Quietly begin to go through the 5 elements of prayer. Quietly begin to speak to your Father and watch him do something. But no, there's a part of us that wants everybody to know that we did it. I prayed. I sought God. I did. It was me that did it. But what happens if there's no names to put behind you? You're not prophet, evangelist, pastor. You're just a regular person. And how long halt you between the opinion that it's got to be me? Because you're looking for value because so many things have devalued you. So what you need is a title. You need a name. You need people to know you. You need people to understand that it was you that said it or you that prayed. And I'm showing God that I'm fulfilling his purpose by doing all these outward things. I'm a minister in the church. I'm a deacon in the church. I have a pastor of 5 years, and God is looking at you going, all those things don't matter if you're not connected to me. So we go down, and as he's talking, you see he says in the 25th verse, and we're going to leave this after this verse. And Elijah said unto the prophets of Baal, choose a bullock, choose your sacrifice. Let me say something to you guys. Everybody that I know feels like they've made a sacrifice. And most of us have made sacrifices for other people. Everybody you know feels like they've made a sacrifice. And because they feel like they've made a sacrifice, what they find themselves doing is trying to put themselves in a position where that sacrifice is worthy of God. Everybody puts themselves in. You all think you're sacrificing. We all think we're sacrificing. You think you're sacrificing. But have you sacrificed unto death? There's a passage that says that. Have you sacrificed unto death? Do you believe God in a way that you have no other option? Or do we believe God in a way that there's an option and maybe I can do this and maybe I can do that or maybe I can do the other? And people say, oh yeah, I believe God. Okay, can you in the midst of somebody say, you know you ain't no good, you ain't never been no good, can you keep your mouth closed and let God talk to you? Let God take care of it? Or does every time somebody say something to you, you got to say something back? I can't just let them talk to me like that. Can you be silent and let the Lord fight your battles? Can you ignore the urge that you have to fix a situation, to get somebody back, or tell somebody what's on your mind, or make sure they don't? Can you stand in the midst of God and say, if you don't handle it, God, it won't get handled? Have you resisted unto blood? Or are you still trying to live a I have got to be value life? Are you living a life because you want to feel valuable? When God is going, not only are you valuable, you are everything that I've wanted in a person. You're everything that I could possibly ask for in a person. Or are you still trying to be valuable? Go to Romans, the 8th chapter. So, in the process of this, you're looking for value. And the value that you're looking for in the 8th chapter of Romans. Romans, the 8th chapter. And we're going to start with the 29th verse. That's what I said. I like the 29th verse. Romans 8:29. Over the last 7 days, and guys, those of you that don't know me, I hope you learn me, and I hope I'm somebody that can keep speaking into your life. I don't try to be anything more than I am. I simply try to fulfill the call of God for my life. That's my whole purpose. I want to just fulfill the call of God for my life. I don't have Bentleys and millions of dollars. I don't run around telling everybody who I am. I'm not trying to fulfill my own calling. I'm simply trying to take my position and place you in a position where you see something greater. I deal with challenges just like everybody else does. My challenges may be bigger than your challenges, but I deal with challenges just like everybody else does. But I'm trying to take this position and use this position to take you to the next level. Romans, the 8th chapter, and the 29th verse says this, and it's on the screen here behind me. It's on the screen here behind me. For those of you that are not on YouTube, we're on youtube.com/higher talk. HIGHERTALK. Higher like talking, higher, and higher at talking. It says, for whom he foreknew, he did predestine to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn amongst many brethren. We had a long discussion about that in that it says, how can John, the 1st chapter and the 14th verse say he was the only begotten? And then the second one says he was born, the firstborn of many brethren. Begotten and born are two different things, though sound alike. He said, who he foreknew, he predestined to be in the family of God. He knows you're bad. He knows you're good. He knows when you can't keep your mouth closed. He knows when you talk too much. He knows when you are doing little things to people to get them back and you're trying to be good. He knows the sneaky little things that you do within yourself. He knows every good, bad, and indifferent thing about you. And he said, he foreknew you, so he predestined you. Now, this is not the word predestined that we go, well, he already knows I'm going to do it. That's an excuse to remain in the place of bondage. It's an excuse to remain in the place of mediocrity. If he knows you're going to act a specific way, then why would you act that way if you know that way can make you better? Well, if he knows that, see, people say God knows my heart. Yes, but if he knows your heart, it means God has prepared your heart for something greater. Do not give in to what your mind is trying to tell you. Do not get in. He foreknew you. He knew that you were going to go through this challenge. And people say, well, if God foreknew, that means he knows who's going to get saved and who's not going to get saved. No, that's not what that means. Let me help you out with this. What this means is when God speaks something, he gives you 5 million different options, and as you choose your option, it tells you your repercussion. See, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So when you decide to go down road 5, God says road 5 equals this. Road 2 equals this. That means he knows all the endings at the beginning. So he has foreknown what you were going to do, and he made options for you to do something different. Some of you know that you need to be changing. There needs to be sacrifices. You're teetering between whether I should keep doing this or I should stop doing that. You're teetering between, is it going to happen? Am I holding this person here, or should I leave them to God to help them? Why? Because is God real means I let them go. The way God found me, he can find him. The way God changed me, he can change him. Do you believe God? You've been contaminated by people that say they believe God and they don't actually believe God. Because when you understand who he foreknew, you need to know that all things now work together for the good, as we go later on down early in that passage, and know that God is now working things to your good, but you will fight against God's good because you want your okay. You'll fight against God's great because you want your okay. You don't know how sometimes to close your mouth. Don't say a word. Don't open your mouth. Not a mumbling word while God works something out. You don't know how to sit there and say, God, it's all yours. If I don't make it, God, I don't make it in your presence. If it doesn't work because of you. You don't know how to talk to God and say, God, it's all or nothing for you. I don't follow the opinions of science and people and situations and circumstances. I follow the opinion and the belief and what has been set up for me by God. Baby, people are going to die. People are going to leave you. People are going to like you, dislike you. They're going to be jealous of you. Some of them will look at you and want you dead. But honey, when you know that God's got your back, that you know that he's the one that takes care of you, when you know that everything you have need of is within him, you can let go. And as we say in church, let God. Verse 30 says, moreover, who he did predestine, them he also called, and whom he called, them he also justified, and whom he justified, them he also glorified. He's called you, he's justified you, and he's given you a glory. Philippians talks about a name that's above every name. He's giving you a glory. Stop, oh my God, yielding to the hurt and the disappointment of your circumstances. Stop dealing with the fact of the broken pieces that make you feel like you made a mistake. Honey, it was predestined that you learn the power and the strength of God at a level that nobody else around you could handle. They couldn't handle something. Some of the people around you couldn't handle what you've been through. That's why God knew you could make it through. Some of the people around you couldn't deal with the situation where your husband left you with 5 kids or 3 kids. Some of you couldn't handle the fact that you lost your house and lost your car, had to sleep in your car sometime. Some people couldn't handle it, but God knew there was something down inside of you, honey. He knew something that was so deep inside of you that would not let go. Even though they said the sickness was going to take you out, they said that you can't make it. Other people couldn't do, but God said there's something inside of you that I predestined inside of you. There's a power I placed inside of you that's reserved for those hard times, that's reserved for those challenging times. It's a superpower that's inside of you that's reserved for when everything looks like it's against you. There'll be a God that'll stand up for you. He's not residing in a church. He's not residing under religion. He's not even residing under what you believe. He's residing inside of you. And he's waiting for you to connect to him in such a way to go, God, right now, I need you. It's a justified power. You don't have to beg for it. It's already there. It's a justified power. It's an ordained power. It's a built power. I don't care if they believe in God or not. I don't care. See, we get into battles and get into challenges with stuff that does not make a difference. If you don't believe in God, baby, I love you. Keep it moving. I make a comment that my wife says, it's weird that you make this comment. I don't bicker with people that don't understand spiritual concepts. I don't even have conversations with them. People that start talking about, what if the Bible said, well, I got that. But are you open to understand that God can transcend you beyond the Bible? Are you open to understand that the principles that are taught in this book are principles that are foundational principles and they're elementary principles to understand that you're going to go to the next level? Then how do we know God? How did the people that didn't have the Bible know God? They connected to him. And when they connected to him, then from that point on, they learned him. See, people knew the works of God. We know the ways of God. So when you read the Bible, you're learning the ways of God so that you can follow the works of God, so that you can get into the revelation of God. You learn the works, you learn his ways, then you learn his revelation. Most of us are looking for the works and not understanding the ways of God. Why? Because religion wants you to see everybody goes down this road. Everybody live this way. Everybody come to my church. Everybody come to my organization. Everybody has to be a deacon. Everybody. It trips me out that there are 50-something ministers in a particular church waiting for the pastor to die so they get their opportunity in his calling, in his position. But whom he, look at this. Verse 29. Verse 30. For whom he predestined, them he also called. Many are called. Them he also called. You have a calling on your life. It may not be the pulpit, my sister. It may not be the pulpit, my brother. It may be what you're doing in your business. It may be in movies. It may be in television. It could be a number of different things, but you're now narrowing it down that I've got to make sure it's in church. There are some of you right now that God is going to bless you to be a financial blessing to everybody else. Why? Because God needs people in that position. There's some of you that are in love. Whenever you hug somebody, it gives them peace. We have got to stop limiting who God is to what people told us God was. Let me say that again. You're limiting who God is according to what people told you God was. That's why people will pull an Old Testament passage out on me in a minute. Well, you know the Bible says that if you don't pay your tithes, you got to pay it 10 times fold. That's Old Testament. That's people that did not know the heart of God. And because they didn't know the heart of God, something had to be written so they could understand God. That's why the Old Testament is there. That's why they sacrificed bullocks. That's why Elijah, when he said what he said, I need a bullock. Why? I need to access a level of God that I don't have in my spirit, but if I do what he told me in the book, I can get what the book says. But the book says now it's inside of you. So he'll say sacrifice something inside of you. It's sacrifice your mindset. Sacrifice your situation. Sacrifice the circumstances. Sacrifice your emotional attachment to things. And God said the same thing that took a bullock in the Old Testament, God will do in the New Testament without you sacrificing anything physical. He called you. If someone calls you, they see the value in who you are and they're assigning you to what he's called you to do. You have to believe that God has called you. You've got to believe that he not only called you, he justified you. He predestined you. He protected you. All so you can get into the position of God. Also, you can get in his position. Philippians said equal with him. This is a very interesting, and those of you that have read Romans 6, 7, and 8 probably have read through this, and I'm just kind of giving you a brush up on this. And then it says, verse 31, what shall we say then to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us? What shall we say to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us? There are people around you right now that are jealous of how God deals with you. And then there are people around you, which are my favorite people, that feel like their remedy is the most important because they want to say their remedy is what fixed that situation. They want to tell you, oh yeah, girl, why don't you try 2 oatmeal cookies and 1 onion? Oh yeah, why don't you try this? And they recommend the concepts that don't put God into position because they don't trust that God is going to be who God said God is. So they put into position these concepts, and they don't put the concepts into position so that they can benefit you. They put the concepts into position so they don't benefit you. I'm sorry, I'm trying to go this way. That's what I'm trying. Right here. There we go. I'm sorry, guys. There we go. So that they can benefit you. So what I want you to understand is this right here. Follow me right here. Follow me right here. Yeah. Okay. So let's give me a brief second right here, guys. I want to do something right quick. Yeah, I want to do something right quick. I want you to follow me here. If you are writing, I want you to write these things down that I'm about to share with you right now. If you're writing, if you're in your writing in your Bible or in your book or in your whatever you're writing in, if you're writing, I want you to write this down. My power is not based on what people think. It's based on what God has done. My power is not based on what people think. It's based on what God has done. My power is not based on what people think. It's based on what God has done. I need you to understand that, because what's happening to us, we are allowing the opinions of man to determine the direction of our lives. The opinions of man to guide the direction of our lives. All right? Okay, so that ought to help us for a little bit. Let's move over a little bit. Now, hopefully that helps some of you. So, if we look at this passage, he said, if God be for us, who can be against us? If God be for us, who can be against us? Is God real in your life? Is he real in your life? I try to stay about 30 minutes. Is he real in your life? If he's real in your life, what sacrifices are you making to prove he's real to you? Okay. In this passage, he's utilizing things, and he's saying, listen, here's what I need you to understand. He said, what then shall we say to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us? Verse 32 says, let me see, do I have verse 32 in here? Let me make sure. I might have verse 32 in here. Let's see, is verse 32 in here? Yeah. Verse 31 says, I'm sorry, guys, it's right above me here. If you're in your Bibles, it's right above me here. And he says, he that spared his own son, spared not his own son, but delivered him up for us all. That means good, bad, and indifferent. He delivered us. I'm going to show you this. Because this is, see, we're not teaching this. And I need you to hear this. He's saying he delivered his son up for us all. How not then shall he give us, also freely give us all things? How should he not freely, the same one he gave his son up, and he's saying, how then shall he not give us all things? What are you lacking? At what point in your life are you finding something that you need to fix? Why? It's not because you're bad. It's because you're afraid to trust him. Ephesians, the 2nd chapter. 2nd chapter, the 1st verse, and says, and you he have quickened who were dead in trespasses and sin. Verse 2, wherein in times past you walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit which worketh in the children of disobedience, among whom you had conversations. Verse 3, in times past, in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of our flesh and our mind, and were by nature the children of wrath, even so as others. But God, who is rich in mercy, greatly loved wherewith he loved us, even when we were dead in sin, have quickened us together with Christ, and have raised us up together, and made us to sit in heavenly places. He did it. He did it. He's saying, you're not that bad. You're not that terrible. You're not that mean that you can't have the access to God. But I need to explain this to you, and I need you to follow me very closely. There is who you are, and there's who he is. Everywhere you move, he moves with you. But every situation, let me see if I can do this like this. I'm going to do this like this. Yeah, I'm going to take it like this. Every situation. Oh, here's it. This is even better. This is a black pen. This is a black pen with a red and a blue and a pink. Everywhere you move, God moves. And this is how, listen to me very closely. This is how this works. This is how this works. Okay? As long as you move, God's going to be there with you. He's not going to stop. He's not going to change. He's going to be there with you. You can move away from him, but he's going to still be with you consistently. So you have one color that's, I like it, I dislike it. You have one color. But this pen, and most of you may not be able to see this, this is one of those pens where each color push down one different colors. What he's waiting for you to do is to join the family of movement that comes from the Spirit. So you don't have to have your own black. You can have a black within everything else. But you also have access to blue. You have access to green. You have more access being a part of it than you have away from it. But it's going to take you sacrificing your opinion about things and your thoughts. Why? Because you've been conditioned to be destroyed and destructive. You've been conditioned to be that way. This is why you will go to church 13 years and never see any change. Why? Because you were conditioned to stay in this position. You were conditioned to stay in this position. And this position has always been there as an offering. It's always been there as a sacrifice. So when he said, I knew you, I already knew the things that you were going to do. I already knew the things you were going to deal with. I already knew the circumstances you're going to have happen in your life. I already knew these things. I knew them. I knew them before you knew them. But what I'm asking you to do is believe me. What I'm asking you to do is to believe God. Hear me. What I'm asking you to do is to believe God to the point that you see him invade your life. I almost want to stand up. Till you see him invade your life. You follow me? Till you see him invade your life. Make one step. I'm not telling you to turn everything over, because some of these things have been mastered and dug into your body for so long that it's hard for you to change them. But make one step. Make one step. Trust him in one area without reservation. Trust him. Pick an area and trust him without reservation. If you're married, trust that he's going to deal with your spouse. Don't say anything. Don't respond to it. Don't try to fix it. Trust him. If you're single and you got a grown child, stop trying to tell the child what you think and pray on that child. If you need a financial situation, take a situation. You ain't got to empty your bank account. Right now, take everything that you have at your disposal and just give it. Just release it. If it's a sickness, decide that you're going to not take all the pills. This pill I'm going to stop. Don't make it a big thing that it'll scare you. This pill is going to stop. Or don't stop taking the pill. Decide I'm going to commit to drinking water every single solitary day. 8 gallons of water or 1 gallon of water. I'm going to commit to that. I'm going to commit to walking. I don't care how much I hurt. I don't care what I feel. I don't care what circumstances say. I don't care what scientists say. I am going to say you're either God or not God. You're either God or not God. If you're dealing with emotions, forgive somebody. Just say, you know what? You're forgiven. It's going to make you feel crazy. Your body is going to do crazy things. Your emotions are going to do crazy things, and make it something that makes you strain. Makes it stretch you. Make it stretch you. Why? Because if you do these things, God will show up. I promise you he will. I promise you he will. He's already set a path for you. He knew you were going to be here today. He knew this was going to be a conversation. He knew that this was a time for you. God, I'm telling you, I want to stand up. He knew that this is where you were going to be at this moment. Get yourself out of the way and give God that spot. Get yourself out of the way and give God that position. And let God show you that he's real. Prove to me you're real, God. Oh my God. Father, I love you. Prove to me you're real, God. Prove to me you're real, God. I have watched God show me he's real. He pressed my back against the wall. And when he pressed my back against the wall, I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to push. I'm ready to scratch. I'm ready to do all. You don't know how much my back has been against the wall. But every time he showed up. Every time he's shown up. And I've let go of situations and let go of circumstances and let go of people and let go. Why? Because I need God in those positions where I have occupied that position. Hear me, people. Positions that you've occupied. You have held those positions. You're in charge of your healing and you're in charge of your prosperity. You're in charge. You've made yourself in charge of making sure the children are okay. But you can't watch them like God can watch them. And every time he shows up, make an assigned sacrifice and watch what God does. You want that next level? Break the ceiling. Break the ceiling. You want that next level? Break the ceiling. When you break that ceiling, God is guaranteed to show up. Guaranteed. He's either God or he's not. He's either God or he's not. He's either God or he's not. You decide. If he's not God, baby, go do something else. Go worship trees or the ocean or bread or monkeys or something like that. Don't sit and teeter and play with a God that has the power to change your world. Don't teeter back and forth between opportunities for God to show you his greatness and your ability to feel like you're going to be okay. Because that's just not how I am. Well, you don't know who you are. Because who you are now has been established by the pressure to be that. You've been pressured to be this person. You weren't freely flowed into this. You were pressured to be that person. You were pressured to be stingy. You were pressured to be mean. You were pressured. Your life created this avenue and this atmosphere. So this is how you were made. Circumstances and situation, or as the scriptures say, you were born into sin. You were shaped by iniquity. You were shaped by iniquity. If you can be shaped, you can be unshaped. You can be broken. You can be remolded. Stop accepting what they're giving you and take what's yours. Take what you get. Stop accepting what they're giving you and take what's yours. Take it. I appreciate every person that attends the mentoring class, that attends the master class, that attends it. I appreciate every single solitary one of you, and I pray for you. I pray for you. Why? I'm not too big to understand that everybody is dealing with something, but I'm going to give you some things I need you to do. If you're part of any of those organizations, if you're part of the mentoring class, the master class, any of those organizations, I'm going to give you some things to do. Press until you can't press anymore. Stop letting all these things distract you. Number one, press until you can't press anymore. Number two, stop making excuses. Stop making excuses for where you are and give reason to get out. Stop making excuses for where you are and give yourself reasons to get out, to be free. And number three, make God prove who he is. Make him prove who he is. Make God prove. How do you do that? You make sacrifices. I'm going to sacrifice this. I'm going to sacrifice this. I'm going to not say anything the next time my husband says something to me, and I'm going to listen all the way through. I'm going to not try to get mad at my children every time they say something. I'm not going to, when they yell at me, I'm not going to yell back. I'm going to start sacrificing my flesh. When you sacrifice your flesh, you begin to condition your flesh. We that are part of the master class, we're learning how to strengthen our spirit and to sacrifice our flesh. We're learning how to sacrifice our flesh. Why? Because beyond that place of opinion and flesh, you move that out of the way, you see God for who he really is. And you see God for what he can do in your life. I've battled, and guys, I've battled, and my only battle is y'all. Y'all are my only battle. I don't battle anything else. I battle making sure I give to the people what God wants them to have. That is my battle. That is my battle. And we'll keep it that way. So he says, who he foreknew, he predestined. You've been predestined to something greater. You've been predestined to something amazing. You've been predestined to something that will change the world and change your life. Stay with that. Those of you who know the 5 elements of prayer, use those 5 elements of prayer. Pray every day. And watch God do what God can and will do. So, all right. That's it. 2 announcements I want to make. Number 1, for those of you that want to give, you feel like this is a place that you want to give, you want to give a donation of some kind, this is our Cash App and this is our PayPal. You want to give Cash App or PayPal, that's right there on the screen. Cash App is the HSOlife. PayPal is the Higher Stand International. And those 2 ways are the ways that you can give. If you do not have that, screenshot that, and I'll bring it back a little bit later. Second of all, on Tuesday, we have our mentoring class. If you want to be a part of our mentoring class, please let me know by one of the texts. You can either leave me a message in this or in Instagram or TikTok. You can send that a message in there. Third of all, Third of all, on tomorrow, I don't think any of you know this, but tomorrow at 8 o'clock, I have been asked to do a class on the power of women. It will be tomorrow at 8 o'clock. If you are a woman, single or married, and want to be a part of that class, it will be tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Please let me know that you want to be a part of that class. It is going to be either a Google class or a YouTube class, not Google, a Google class or a Zoom class. It is tomorrow at 8 p.m. My mentoring keys, you'll see me on Tuesday. But if you want to be a part of that class, let me know, and we'll make that happen. So I do ask you to give. If you can give. This is not a pressure. We don't like putting pressure on people to do what they got to do or what they want to do. The other side of that is I'm appreciating this. We will have classes this week. I appreciate everything that you guys have done and everything you're going to do. So that's it. You be blessed. I appreciate you. I really, really do. I thank God for you. Again, this is for those of you that don't know me. This is our Cash App, and this is our PayPal. And that's it. I'm not going through, he gave this and the da-da-da-da-da. You give and you let God bless you. You give and you let God bless you. And God will take care of you. That is why he's called God, and that is why he's God. That is why he's called God, and we thank him for it. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, I am your friend, Uncle Dallas. I appreciate this. I appreciate everything that you guys have done. I appreciate how you've been so blessed to us. We look forward to seeing you on those two classes. Again, Monday, just text us or let us know, and we'll get that to you later. I love you. I miss you guys whenever I'm not teaching. I miss you guys because you guys are so wonderful. So I'll see you all. I'll see my sisters. Well, men can come too. I'll see my sisters on Monday at 8 o'clock. I'll see everybody else on Tuesday at 8 p.m. All right. You have your links already.